Not only can you try it, but you may have a chance to buy one as well. So I'm sure most of you know where those are. Tastings are found. I'll put the link in the chat. And I suppose since we have you here, what is it? May? No, this is the May. The June Society tastings will go out live next week. So keep an eye out for those. But yeah, I think that's all the propaganda I needed to get off the plate there, Evan.
Right on. Okay, so welcome to our Scotch Malt Whisky Society May of 2025 Outturn. Very cool lineup tonight. We will be starting with a bottle called Gastronomic Fusion. Second up will be CONIFERS in the Rain. Third will be And Me and My True Love Will Yet Meet Again. Could have gone a little bit longer on that one for the name, but I guess we'll just have to go short. Moroccan MEDJOOL Mystique for number 4. Old Funky Butte or Old Funky Butte for number 5. And number 6 will be called A Different Shade of PEAT. And then we will cap off the tasting with Alice Through the Tasting Glass. So with these tastings, we typically run through the first time blind and talk about what we nose and taste in the glass. You're welcome to put your comments as we go through in the chat as well. We may comment on those as we're going through, comment on your comments, but keep some in the glass as we're going through, and we will go through a second time and reveal all the missing information from the PDF file that I just sent out. And at the end of the tasting, you'll be able to order bottles from our website if you like. Very, very cool lineup tonight. It is a bit of a roller coaster, as I said there, especially between 1 and 2. We are starting a little bit different on this one.
Yeah, this is a little coastal, Evan. There's some salt and a touch of smoke on this.
Absolutely. So we are starting with one of the Heresy bottles from the SMWS. This is a small batch, not a single cask. It's cut down to 50% alcohol. Gastronomic Fusion is cask types for our first fill ex-bourbon barrels and second fill ex-bourbon hogsheads, distilled on the 7th of October, 1,314 bottles from this Outturn. And it should be a bit different on the nose. Fairly floral for me right off the hop.
Yeah, there's this weird mix of like a fruit mist and like infused with smoke. The label, it's called Gastronomic Fusion, but it does remind me of like, if you've ever had the chance to go for dinner at like a Michelin star restaurant, sometimes they like massively overdo the food. And it kind of reminds me of like some of those experiences where just bombarded with a number of different flavors and aromas all at once. Some of them quite contradictory.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a little bit of like cotton candy meets. What else am I getting there? In there, something a little smoky. Maybe a touch of tropical fruit in there as well.
Evan, I think it's a tropical fruit smoke gastrique would be the technical term, which I think just is a fancy way of saying foam.
Okay. I was like gastrique, is that what they like part of the bypass that they do for surgery or?
That's if Derek Zoolander is doing it. It's called gastrique.
Let's give it a sip.
Palate matches the nose quite well. Evan,
yeah,
there's probably rhyme to your reason here, but this kind of feels like a back end whiskey to me, just off the top of my head.
Yes. Yeah, it is. So I put this lineup together. I wasn't sure where to put this one. Tried putting it into the lineup, and I found that it either got lost or jarred with a few other drams. Harmony put together the lineup without knowing what my lineup was the next day and came up with something completely different. So you guys are welcome to think that I'm a little bit crazy on this.
What a surprise.
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead.
What's it? Well, what have we told people about this yet? Because I don't want to spoil anything. Like
nothing. Just that it's called Gastronomic Fusion.
Because I went looking because there's something unusual about this one.
Yes. Yeah, there's a few things unusual about this one.
But
Um,
without spoiling it, we've seen some interesting releases involving what I think this spirit is.
mhm. Yeah, it comes from a relatively quirky distillery.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Adam says there's multiple pages about it in the tasting booklet. Yeah, and they do talk about it in this, and they probably do give some info there. I only actually looked at the back of the bottle. Um, they do mention grain whiskey,
Okay. But I
but
think
we'll
there's
leave
a
it at
big
that.
but.
Mhm.
It's
There
grain
is.
whiskey, but
Yeah.
I think,
Ac-
just leave it
According
at that.
to yeah, according to regulations, this is a grain whiskey. It's got this nice creaminess on the palate,
Mhm.
and it's got this sort of peanut note that goes around along with it, but then it's got this really nice sweetness that comes through. Those fruit and floral notes kind of linger.
The interesting thing is I think the palate and the nose match quite well. What's
Mhm.
interesting though is how much more peated it is on the palate. Like you don't really
Yeah.
get, like you get the ton, you know there's smoke there, but you don't really get how much there is until you take a sip of it. Like it's quite a
Mhm.
bit more impactful than I was expecting.
Yeah, it's kind of like like a s'more with a slightly burnt marshmallow. And then you chased it with a jammy Dodger, like a little bit of a strawberry jamminess to it after that for me. Not going to bother there adding water myself on this one, but I might do it on the second go round. But at 50%, this is pretty a pretty easy starter.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Okay,
Um,
that's number one.
okay. Do
Yeah,
it.
So
Sorry,
context.
Kelly.
Just for some context, when you were talking earlier about how much have we told people you don't want to give anything away,
yeah,
a little bit has definitely been given away in the booklets and the PDF that I did up. I left the descriptor along the top of the page that says small batch single grain, and the reason for that is because the article about it that follows on the next page had so many references to what it was that it was going to be impossible, just really difficult and time consuming for me to blind. So I decided, screw it, I will leave the basic information in that it is a single grain, but I took out, the age and the year and that kind of stuff. So there will be some reveal, but yes, fundamentally, I've revealed it's a grain. But you're right, it's not a grain in the sense that we would think of a grain. So
absolutely.
more to come.
More to
Cool.
come. Okay, so we're not going to pull back
Yeah.
another layer just yet.
Yeah.
But that's
Kelly,
okay.
have you ever thought of like doing these like FBI documents and just putting redacted everywhere? Uh,
I actually started doing that, and it
nice.
became just really, yeah. I mean, if you read the article, Evan, it just became really cumbersome, and it just wasn't going to be easy to do, and it was going to be a big time sink. And I was like, but I did actually start going down that road.
Nice. Cool. Okay, so like I said in the notes for the lineup, if you have some crackers with you, if you want to reset your palate, go feel free. I don't find this one overwhelms the next one, but your guys' mileage may vary. Number two is called Conifers in the Rain. This we are back to a single cask, sort of like the natural state for a lot of SMWS bottlings. This spent its life in a second fill ex bourbon barrel, 3rd of April for the distillation date. 117 bottles for the Outturn, 57.7% alcohol.
I was going to say, to me, it's less conifers in the rain and more Comic-Con in the heat. It's what I imagine the Parade of Wonders smelled like if it
Yeah,
had been really hot.
there is a little bit of like sweaty clothes and melted crayons in there.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's again in a little bit of a different way. There's a little bit of a floral note to it, and it goes into prickly pear stylistically for me, like thinking of the Eau Claire Equinox or Equinox liqueur that they do. A little bit of elderflowerish notes in there for me too.
Mhm. A little bit of like lemon pledge.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. There is a nice waxiness coming through that I didn't notice when setting the lineup order. Hmm.
quite toasty. There's a real firm, like linseed oil note to it.
Yeah. And then some nice fruit notes again underneath that. Like you
And honey
maybe
and wax.
sprayed a little bit of honey and wax. Yeah, and you sprayed a little bit of lemon pledge in your mouth just to get that lemon scent.
I've never tried that.
No? Maybe you're missing out, man.
Pretty sure I'm not. But I'll take your word. I hear the gas cylinders for keyboards are good fun too, but I haven't tried that either.
Mhm. It's a tasty one. It's got a bit of spice in there on the finish there too. With a few drops of water, it gets a little bit more yeasty on the nose.
It's definitely pinier as you go along. Like there's some piney,
Mhm.
sappy tones. Evan, I don't know if you remember this, but there used to be this weird beer called Alba, and it was part of this set called Historic Ales of Scotland. And I don't know if they were really historic ales. They were more just weird ales of Scotland. And one of them was brewed with pine resin or pine sap. And I'm pretty sure it was called Alba. And there is something about this that reminds me of that beer.
Interesting. It does. I wonder if it's coming from the spirit or the oak. Because there are definitely some distilleries that have a bit of that pine sap note to them.
Cool.
Yeah, I really like that one. It's got just like it's got these ripe fruit notes, but there's something green about it, and in there like some unripe fruit as well. Okay, next up for our blind round.
Well,
Sorry, go ahead.
Did Kelly, I know we had to mute her because of some feedback, but did she want to chime back in on anything there?
Yeah.
Don't know what's causing the feedback, where that's coming from. But yeah, I mean, nothing earth-shattering to say. I think this has a lovely mouthfeel. And I find this one really sweet. Lots of
Mhm.
sugar, vanilla pudding. It conjures up memories of vanilla pudding from my childhood. But mostly I really love the mouthfeel. It's quite syrupy and coating. It's a nice little whiskey for me.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that about it as well. I'm actually having to pour more from my sample bottle without trying to get through to the end of it already. So that's usually a good sign.
I cheated a little bit and I went to go see which distillery this was, and it was not what I was expecting. So
It has earmarks for one specific distillery, and I cannot recall if it is that distillery right now. For me. But let's go on to number 3, which is "And Me and My True Love Will Yet Meet Again." So this guy started his life in an ex-bourbon hogshead. Final cask was a HTMC new oak hogshead, so heavy toast, medium char, new oak hogshead. Pardon me, distilled on 30th of July, 288 bottles from the Outturn, 55.1% alcohol.
it's interesting, when you mentioned the new oak cog set, it got me going like, is this going to be like over extracted? But it's really this nice, thin, pillowy level, like layer of vanilla,
Yep.
marshmallow.
Yeah, and there's still some impressive grain notes coming through, even with the 2 casks for me. Like it's almost like you smeared oatmeal on a chopping block.
It's kind of reminds me of like the dried fruits you'll often see on a charcuterie board. So things like apricot and maybe some like dehydrated apple slices.
Yeah, maybe a bit of ginger candies in there too.
Palate on that's lovely. It's sweet, fruity.
Yeah.
Quite toasty. It's not overpowering, the toasty notes. Really reminds me of like Quaker's Harvest Crunch on the palate. Like you get this granola, like a little hint of honey, and again, like maybe
Almonds.
some of those little dehydrated apple chunks.
Yeah, that's a good call. This one really impresses me. I really like how those fruit notes and dried fruit notes still come through with the 2 casks. Pretty impressive stuff that it doesn't get overwhelmed by that. We'll have to see how long it's spent in that second cask there with the heavy toast and medium char, but there's something really neat about this one that like it seems to have a lot of spirit still coming through for 2 casks for me. A bit of a dried pineapple note right now on the nose and palate too.
I can see that. There's like a kind of, I don't know, pina colada jelly bean note.
Yeah, the cereal reference, I don't know if it's still in the market, but I remember as a kid there was something called Mueslix, maybe muesli, and I just have visual memories of pouring it into the bowl, and there was always a dust cloud that came out because it was just, you know, a box of dried everything, grain. But it's reminiscent of that for me. I kind of get you're talking about the dried fruits, and I sort of get raisins and that very dry oatmeal dust cloud scent. It's very cereally, but in a fruity way. So the reference is apt, I think. And it's, again, a nice one with a really nice, oily, syrupy mouthfeel.
Yeah, nothing like a box of cereal that'll give you emphysema, eh?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's elegant. It's lovely. Quite like that one.
Yeah, I like it quite a bit. Yeah, not much more to say about it except it's really darn good. It takes really nicely to water. That Mueslix note maybe goes into a bit of Fruit Loop cereal for me with water, but let's go on to number 4.
All right.
Number 4 is called Moroccan MEDJOOL Mystique. Initial cask is an ex-bourbon hogshead. Final cask was a first fill PX hogshead, 13th of December for the distillation date. 277 bottles from the Outturn, 57.4% alcohol.
I mean, it's kind of this dumpy sherry, but underneath it, there's this really delicate flow.
Yeah, it's like a very honey tea that you just sprinkled some sawdust on the nose. Maybe just a touch of like balsamic vinaigrette in there.
Yeah. I mean, it's at once kind of rich, but also kind of closed. Like I find it's sort of hard to pick out individual notes. I can see like a little bit of chocolate and maybe some of those like dried like dates, figgy dates.
Just a touch of maple syrup as well for me.
I'm not sure what the deal is with the lineup tonight, but so far everything is taking me back to my childhood in some. I mean, vanilla pudding earlier, and then the last one was the Mueslix, and now this one is like a freshly opened box of Fig Newtons. That sort of oaty, breakfasty again note of the whatever's around the fig, the pastry wrapping
But
around
Kelly,
them, and the figs.
back before they took the trans fats out of them and ruined Fig Newtons.
Yeah.
Obs.
Because they were much better before. I mean, RFK Jr. wouldn't want us to have them, but they tasted better.
I was just going to say that the sign of a really good tasting is when it acts as a catalyst for a midlife crisis.
Or a dig at someone who's underqualified for a position of incredible consequence. You know, I'd be honest, and I think this is not a secret, at least not for Evan, maybe for some of you. I'm not often a fan of some of these finishes because I find they're too overt. There's no subtlety to them, but I like this one. I think it works well.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way about this one as I did number 3. They go in different directions, but there's a deftness to everything, and there's a balance that still stays in play with those 2 casks.
Yeah. It's tasty.
Yeah, Derek Payne says Glossette raisins. I totally agree. I can see that. It's got this nice, like soft, like toffee drizzle on a cake or an apple pie note in there too on the palate.
Mhm.
A little bit dry and nutty on the finish as well. Right on. Cool lineup so far. Now let's go maybe in a slightly different direction, sherry wise, with number 5, which is called Old Funky Butte. This spent its entire life
Kelly's
in,
correcting you. She said, but is it like the butt
I,
of a rifle? Is that what we're going with here, Kelly?
I think it's more to do with the old English spelling, old
Mhm.
funky
Oh,
butt, all the
or
extra E's.
Old Scottish?
Yeah.
Old Scottish, I think is what you meant.
I'm
Old.
gonna stick to like mid Southwestern and go with Butte.
I mean,
But this is a big one.
it does have the aroma of like some old desert hotel in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico.
Yeah. Second fill Oloroso butt or Butte for the cast type. 5th of November for the distillation date. 439 bottles to me outturn, 67.3% alcohol.
I
I think
mean,
that's just slightly higher than the beer we got in today, which is impressive.
um, or slightly lower,
Yeah.
I think is what you meant to say.
Yeah, I think it might be lower.
Evan, what I think is funny about that, I don't know if this is 100% correct. Someone can feel free to fact check me, but I believe a butte is like a plateau or like a small
Yeah.
headland. So I suppose the question would be, what does that smell like?
Yeah.
If we were to look at it the other way.
So a Butte is definitely flatter on top than a butt is.
I would say so.
It's interesting. I know what this is, but if I was looking at it blind and just saw Oloroso Hogshead or butt, pardon me, uh, and the 67.3% alcohol, I would think one specific distillery because there have been bottlings at this high ABV of sherry casks from like the likes of Adelphi and a few others from a Speyside distillery. It does not go in that direction taste wise, though, for me. Um, this could very easily just be like a crazy dumpy whiskey. Um, Probably because it's second fill and maybe because it's not the distillery I'm thinking of. There's some spice to it. There's some structure to it too. It's not just flabby whiskey.
You know, it's not what I thought it was going to be. Evan, when you said that, I went and looked. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, I wonder what this is. And I get the funky reference, although the funk is not really, the funk is the cask. It's not the distillery,
yeah,
which is what I would have thought on this one. It's got this leathery note. The sherry is a little rough. Like it is
yeah,
not, this is not an easy rider kind of sherry. This is like a rough and ready, hard edge sherry.
yeah. Yeah, it's not a lazy boy. It's more like a seat on a chopper.
Mhm. You mean where you're just sitting on the gunnel or whatever it is? You're
Mhm.
not even technically inside it.
Yeah. No, I meant like the motorbike chopper.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That makes more sense.
Mhm.
That would have been a lot of mixed, I don't know if metaphors is the right word here, mixed
Yeah,
objects.
yeah, yeah. It's now I'm just thinking of Bruce Willis in Pulp Fiction, where he's riding the chopper at the end.
Hmm, forgot about that. I'm gonna have to watch that again.
Good movie. There's enough in here where you'd think it'd go like really farmy and like it does have some funkiness, but it's not like going into crazy savory heavy sulfur territory.
Mhm.
Like there's a cleanness to it as well, which is
Yeah.
surprising. Lots of toffee and butterscotch again, but almost like this coppery end to it, like some pennies in there as well.
Kelly's just looking back and thinking like, what did Evan put in his mouth as a child?
What didn't Evan put in his mouth as a child?
Exactly. I'm thinking everything.
Yeah.
Sharpies, pennies, everything.
I actually was a very safe child for the most part, but I had a brother that I used for science experiments. And beyond that, I just have a wild imagination, I guess. That is pretty drinkable for 67%.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
it does raise questions though. Like, what was this put into cask at?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
70, 71?
Yeah. Yeah. They must have it's in that one brick house in Scotland, I guess. At the top floor is where they matured it.
Maybe.
Let's go back to peated territory for number 6, which is called A Different Shade of Peat. There's a note on here saying this is the first appearance from this distillery for the SMWS Canada. Cast type is a second fill charred hogshead. 9th of December for the distillation date. 306 bottles from the Outturn, 58.8% alcohol. And I think this might be a first for people in a few different ways, but we'll have to maybe talk about that on the reveal.
Wow. So I can't believe, like, I had to go look.
Yeah.
I haven't done one of these tastings in a while, so like I can't live in the dark.
Mhm.
I can't believe that the society has not in Canada has not had a whiskey from this distillery in
And that the first one is
15-ish
peated.
years.
Yep.
I want to blab, but I can't. So
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to get back to that because there is some interesting stuff to do with the number on this one. Um, for the second go around, I think. Jeremy Kroll, thank you for putting in that reference there. This is cool,
yeah,
Pete. It kind of goes creamy, but then it goes oily and spicy
yeah.
at the same time.
It's interesting because on the one hand, like the oak doesn't have like a typical presence to it. Like it doesn't come
Mhm.
across as typical bourbon, American oak. I believe it says in there it's a rechar, which makes some sense, but really it's mostly about the distillate and the malt. Like this is so malty, there's so much dry
Yeah.
ashes.
Yeah, there's a ton of malt, not a ton of fruit, at least for me.
Well, there's like
Um,
banana, like
yeah,
dehydrated banana like chips.
yeah, with maybe you smeared some peanut butter on it or something like that. There's some nuttiness to it for sure. And just a touch of dustiness in there too.
And I don't mean this as a flaw, but it's slightly fainty on the palate
Yeah,
too. Like there's this like coppery, slightly metallic edge to it.
yeah,
Um,
I agree.
kind of like reminds me like when you take a baked potato off the barbecue and it's been wrapped in tin foil and um the aluminum has been singed.
And I think I actually have a distillery bottling from when we visited this distillery, and it has that coppery note to it, but it's
Hmm,
from their unpeated side of things.
interesting.
Mhm. Yeah, that's I think that's going to be a fun one to talk about second go around. Let's do the last but not least, and then we will return to that. Last number 7 here is called Alice Through the Tasting Glass. Cast type is a first fill expert barrel, 15th of January for the distillation day, 208 bottles from the Outturn, 55.8% alcohol. I love the nose on this one.
It- is it because it's like I don't know, there's something very bourbony about this, like over the top
A little bit.
toasty oak.
And yeah, toasty oak, but like so leathery for me. There's a little bit of a root vegetable note, which I sometimes get on bourbon as well. but it's like you're reading a leather-bound book in a smoking jacket, and then you like open the book and there's someone had pressed flowers in between the pages.
You're gonna go full hunter on this one, aren't you?
I went as hunter as I possibly could. Can't out hunter himself though.
I get full on red wine gums.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I was
Yeah,
originally
I could see that.
jujubes, but jujubes are too sweet. This isn't that sweet, but the red, like if it had a color for me, it would be red. It's red wine gums.
Yeah.
Kelly,
Some
I'm impressed that you take enough time when you have wine gums to think about the individual flavors as opposed to just like shoving them in your mouth and like
Yeah.
eating as many of them as you can at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the burps that's supposed to give you the flavor, not the actual eating them.
I haven't had a wine gum in probably 20 years. It's kind of fun.
So, I mean, this, I know it's not this, and like it doesn't have the corn, but I think to me, this is kind of like if I went somewhere where they had a lot of bourbon and I said, which is true, but I would never say because I don't want to offend. I hate bourbon. It's boring. It's all just, this mono style of spirit. Someone would be like, you need to try this. And then I'd be like, oh. Because
Yeah.
it's got the best of the best bourbons I've had. I don't know how else to describe it. Like it reminds me of like a good old bourbon that's not over the hill, that's not too woody, that's not just dominated by spice. There's fruit and a lot of other things going on.
Totally. Alec Farquhar says sandalwood, maybe cedar. Not what I would expect. Jeremy Kroll says for peated, very little peat. Alec also says for me, the peat doesn't assert itself aggressively, so you don't get a chance to taste. So you get a chance to taste other things. There is like a sublayer of tropical notes on here, which is really cool. But then it's at the same time, like you think of old bourbon, I think of old G&M casks. It's almost like you took just the leather notes from an old G&M cask and separated it and made a different whiskey with it. Some nice hard grain notes in there as well. Just a touch of like strawberry Twizzler notes in there too.
It's like exotic, like Asian chocolates, like with, chocolate, but with these fruits that you don't know what they are, and
Yep.
maybe slightly on the fermented side. Like there's something really kind of fun and exotic about this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got like the savory sweetness of like a pork bun at the same time too.
The peat profile on this is really unusual, but the spirit's interesting. I like it.
Yeah, agreed. Austin says there's a savory barbecue wood flavor. Totally agree on that too. There's such a weird dichotomy between like these subtle tropical notes, but like almost going super dry at the same time. But your mouth is still watering, which is interesting too. Let's just go back around and head back to number one. If you have any crackers with you or you need to refresh your palate with some water, go for it. But let's dive into the reveal.
Okay.
Okay, back to number one, gastronomic fusion. How's it this time around?
The nose on this is great. Evan, I'm assuming you're taking these live. I haven't done this in a while as we go.
I already put them live. It's all good and ready to go.
Are they set up for the date?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
There's a touch of like flinty note, like you banged rocks together and you just like two flint rocks and you got a little bit of a spark and some smoke in there this time around on this one. The aftermath of a firecracker even.
Evan, I don't want to be that guy, but I just tried to pull them up and with the date. They do not appear to be coming up unless I'm.
Oh, I'll message you with the,
Oh, there's a secret link, is there?
there is.
Okay, all right, fair, totally fair.
There you go.
The smoke is almost not even present this time around. It's Flintstone vitamins on the nose. So those like kind of artificial fruit notes.
Mhm.
But yeah. The palate, like it holds up fairly well. Like you can tell there's something different about it. The smoke's not quite as firm, and maybe, Evan, maybe you were right. Maybe it was best to have this at the start of the lineup because I mean the smoke now is almost not compared to what we've been through.
Yeah.
Smoke is almost non-existent, and yet it
And
seems so
there's a,
firm at the first time we went around.
yeah, there's a touch more fruit coming through too, for me on the finish, which is really neat. Still has a little bit of that, I think I mentioned cotton candy, note to it as well. Did you get that link or do you want me to share?
I did. Oh, do you want me to
Okay.
share? Is that the?
Yeah, if you don't mind. So yeah, this bottle, the Gastronomic Fusion, it is 8 years old. Distillation date is listed as 7th of October 2015. And the notes say made from an 8-year-old Highland malt, which is interesting that they say malt on there. From a combination of first fill and ex bourbon barrels and second fill ex bourbon barrels bottled at 50% alcohol. So this is from Loch Lomond, the Highland distillery that may as well be in the lowlands because it's pretty much it is on the border for all intents and purposes.
Evan,
But
you
yes,
have to be really careful with that. I was at Annandale Distillery, which is basically on the border with England, and it's quite a drive. And I made a joke there that they were practically in England. They didn't take it well. So you got to be. These lines are subtle,
well,
and the distances might be short, but
luckily, like the Scots aren't known to hold grudges or have long feuds, so I think it'll be fine.
have you met my mother?
So Highland Distillery, firmly in the Highlands, as Andrew's telling me to say, Loch Lomond. But this is, although they say malt, this is a single grain whiskey by SWA definitions, the Scotch Whisky Association. Loch Lomond takes for one of their many myriad distillate styles. They take 100% malted barley and they run it through a column still. Which they cannot call single malt whiskey, even though it's 100% malted barley because of the still itself, because they're not using a pot still. So this ends up being a single grain whiskey. So 8-year-old single grain whiskey made from 100% malted barley from Loch Lomond Distillery. Typically that style is called Rajdu, or Old Rajdu. So that's RHOSDHU or something like that.
Got it.
Yeah, that we've had a few different ones in this style from the SMWS over the years, both peated and unpeated. I like the fact that this is at 50% alcohol and just light enough to put it first, just because it's so different for a first bottling or first bottle in the lineup.
I mean, what I think is cool is like this is still around. The price on it's great, and it's the same style of whiskey that went into that one-off Compass Box bottling.
Yep.
So
yeah, good call.
Was that the Arcana? Was that the one, or?
I think that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which release it was.
So $109.99 for this guy. Very well priced, really cool heresy bottling too. I quite like that one.
Oh, it was the experimental grain. That's the one I was thinking of.
Okay.
Which was a cool release, but that's long gone. I mean, what's cool about this is like we just couldn't have enough of that. I think this is as good a bottling of it. That shouldn't last. People should buy that up. You should lap that up. It's
yeah, especially at that price.
a house Scotch price. Like, that's the kind of one that you can pour every day when you get home after work and not worry about it. So, but anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool stuff. Let's go on to number 2.
This is the Comic-Con in the heat.
Yeah. Yeah, Comic-Con in the heat. Oh, the fruit and waxiness right off the hop, just still jumping out. Still get a bit of that pledge note, but it's got like dried mango notes in there for me right now.
It's less body odor now and more like, I don't know, fancy, flea market or farmer's market homemade deodorant.
Mhm. Can
Guaranteed
you
no
say
allergy.
like that might be the first time someone said fancy and flea market in the same sentence?
So drop the flea market, farmer's market, which I think we all
There you
know
go.
immediately means fancy or overpriced.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes. Yeah, love that waxy note on there.
Yeah, so floral.
Mm.
All right, Evan, are you ready to reveal? Like, yeah,
Yep.
fruity, floral. I'll pop this up on the
Yeah.
screen for you.
Sounds good. So this is, and Andrew, you'll have to chime in because you looked at everything and I can't remember what 60 is, but SMWS 60.34.
Uh, is it? This is the one. Is it this one that's Aberlour, Kelly?
Oh,
Oh, no.
Aberfeldy. Yes.
Aberfeldy.
Or Aberdelphi, as some of
Aberdelphi.
us like to call it. Yeah.
I was about to say we could drag that one
Yep.
back out, but Aberfeldy. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's a dead horse to be beaten,
We've not
we will
seen
do
too
so.
many of these, Kelly, have we?
In fact, I did a little dig-in today, and this is only our 4th ever, and they've all come since 2023, so they've all been quite recent, but there's only been 4 of them. This
Right.
this particular one is a sister cask to 60.36. Never judge a dram by its color from September.
Oh,
Anyone
yeah.
has that and wants to do a little compare and contrast. Yeah, no, this it's only the 4th one.
So, I mean, I don't want to be that guy to point this out, but I mean, could this be a little bit of certain distilleries that were unwilling to trade casks for a long time, that all of a sudden have an incentive to sell some casks, and that might be why we're starting to see them?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, you look at the cask number 6034, and the previous one, Never Judge a Dram by Its Color, was 6036. So there's been at least 36 of these over the course of 40 years or
Less
35,
than 1
whenever
year.
Distillery 60 came into the portfolio. But you're right, there probably was a period of time there where they closed their doors, so to speak, to selling liquid. And you're right, in this current environment, we're probably going to start to see more interesting things that we haven't seen previously because people need to sell stuff.
The only indie Aberfeldy that I can think of has come from SMWS or Gordon MacPhail. I can't think of any other Aberfeldy bottlings I've seen recently.
You know what, Evan? It's a good point. I'm going back a long time, like Cooper's Choice, and this is like going back like 17, 18 years.
Yeah.
We've not seen very much I was about to say Aberdelphi. I believe that's a Mark Gerardism, to put credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a lot of independent bottlings of Aberfeldy. It's been owned by Bacardi since Diageo got threatened with antitrust in,
Yeah.
I think it was either the late 90s or early 2000s.
I think it was early 2000s, and I think that's part of the reason we haven't seen a lot of it is I feel like Bacardi / Dewar's had a bit more of a push to focus on this for their own Dewar's bottlings, but also as a single malt.
Well, but it's only really been in the last 10 years that we've even seen the single malt.
Yeah,
so I think
that's
the
true.
Dewar's 10 years ago and back, you'd be looking at the focus was Dewar's. In the last 10 years, the focus has been Aberfeldy and Yeah, I mean, I don't think the sales have quite hit their expectations. It's still one of the best value
Yeah.
21-year-olds out there. And
Yeah.
frankly, always on sale. But
Yeah. Yeah, the only downside with the OBs is they're typically at 40% alcohol for this lineup.
Yeah.
This one at cast strength, I absolutely love. I'm just about done my whole sample bottle, which usually doesn't happen at this point.
Mhm.
And relatively well priced to $145.99 for that 9-year-old.
Yeah.
Let's go on to And Me and My True Love Will Yet Meet Again.
I don't know why, but for some reason I feel like that's got to be like a reference to some World War II
Yeah.
era song,
Probably.
or some kind of poet that some
Yeah.
underemployed SMWS panel member remembers and is referencing.
Yeah. I like to think of it as like a barbershop quartet singing it. And it's like the title line takes like 2 bars to sing. Like it doesn't happen all in one bar. Musical bars, not like
Who?
drinking bars, establishments.
Evan.
So love the fruit notes on this. Again, those pineapple and mango notes coming through for me. Still get that British or UK sort of ginger candy note as well.
Yeah, the candy ginger is solid. Man, the
Mm.
fruit on this is intense. What I love though is just how floral this is, and
Yeah.
those floral notes which were there the first time around, but they were kind of subdued. They were a bit hidden, and they're
Mhm.
so characteristic of this distillery. Whenever I have whiskeys from it, which again is
Yeah.
rare, we don't see a lot of bottlings of it. There's no official releases of it, or at least they're very few. Uh, and yet it's kind of this unsung sort of hero for me.
Mhm.
Shall I pop up?
Um,
Oh no, this is not. Sorry, that's the next one.
I was gonna say I was
That's
wondering
the
where you're
next
going with that.
one. I'm confusing them, but this is a very fruity distillate, and there's a reason for it, which
Yes.
Evan, you can get into.
Yeah. Yeah, this is fantastic stuff. If you want to sure go for it. But I'm super curious as to what the philosophy behind that second cask was. I think it made it better, but I wonder, like, was it just like absolutely too fruity and they had to tone it down, or were the perfume notes overwhelming and they had to use that oak to sort of like
Maybe
soften it up?
maybe it was just so naked that they
Yeah,
needed to add just a little bit of body to it.
it could be. So this is SMWS 135.62 for it, and Me and My True Love Will Yet Meet Again. 16 years old. It says they're spent 12 years as an expert in hogshead before transferring for the remainder of its life to the HTMC New Oak hogshead. Yeah, I think I would prefer it with the second cask. I would love to try what the spirit was like before it hit that second cask just to see what changed.
You know what,
But
Evan?
man,
I think it just needed another 10 years
yeah,
in that original. No, I'm kidding. I mean, I think there's a reason why they did it, but
yeah.
that fruit, that intense fruitiness is that
Oh,
style that I know, especially that Kurt, myself,
yeah,
maybe Sean really craved
yeah.
these really oxidized, very lightly oaked 20-plus-year-old whiskeys. Um,
Well, and this might be the best kept secret that people are still finding out about Loch Lomond.
well, they're still
Is that
struggling.
yeah, like this is probably Inchmirren in style, or no, I think it was actually Inchmoen.
Inchmore.
Uh,
Yeah, I think.
yeah, but so Inchmoen typically when you get official ballings of it, it's going to be peated. This is Inchmoen, but in unpeated style. Inchmirren is typically what they call the peated style or the unpeated style but things get a little bit wacky because I think the Loch Lomond Group's classification for their whiskeys has changed over time as well. And I don't think it's the same. They don't use the same classification as what it comes off the still at or the still style that they're using for the spirit, which is what the SMWS is using to classify the casks as.
Mhm.
But gorgeous, gorgeous dram. Yeah, there's been some really cool Loch Lomond releases lately, both from the SMWS and elsewhere.
Well, and
If
even
you
the
haven't
official
started,
bottlings. I mean,
absolutely.
if you've not tried them, the like 12-year-old Loch Lomond
Yeah, the
official
18,
bottling is,
the 14, yeah,
and think about like what they're able to do. They make like multiple different spirit styles that they're able to marry and still call single malt. I mean, they're
yep,
effectively within that distillery able to do what a blend does all on their
single
own,
blend.
which is quite cool.
Yep, absolutely.
Uh,
Go ahead.
going to Morocco now.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go to Moroccan MEDJOOL Mystique. How's this one holding up?
Good.
It's got the sherry's gone a little bit varnishy for me this time around, and just it's got some celery salt slash celery seed notes right now for me.
The nose on this, I mean, the celery salt, I think, is a good note. The nose on this is still kind of closed. Where I think this one does really well is on the palate. It's
Agreed.
really fruity. Those floral tones are there. This soft leather element. It's got that like sort of artificial fruit flintstony chalkiness to it too on the palate.
Mhm.
Yeah, I quite like this. The nose I just find is a little incongruous, but the palate is so good that I'm going to let that slide.
Yeah, the nose is pretty tight on this, even after being in the glass for nearly an hour now for me, or over an hour now for me. But I agree, the palate is juicy. It's got these nice dried fruit notes. It's got some spice so that it doesn't just get cloying or too overly sweet. Um, Again, like I said, the first round, number 3 and 4, just great selection of secondary cask or second cast to use, and great timing when they pulled it out.
Yeah. Cool.
So this guy is SMWS 85.77. This is the 77th cask we've seen from the SMWS proper of Glen Elgin Distillery. And we've had some pretty cool Glen Elgins. A lot of them have been sherry cask or a secondary sherry cask or a second sherry cask in there for this one. This one's probably the softer of the bunch that I can think of that we've seen recently. But man, that sherry has done so well. Distilled on 13th of December 2007. This is a 15-year-old. Spent its first 11 years in an ex-bourbon hogshead before being transferred to that first fill PX hogshead for the remainder of its life. 209.99. Just a really nice sherry cask whiskey there.
Yeah. No arguments for me on that one.
Again,
Let's climb back up.
for
Sorry,
anybody,
go ahead.
no, just for anybody keeping score, if anybody's interested in this kind of stuff, sister cask to 8578, a real tonic from March. And if you want to go back a ways, 8559 beer pong from August 2020. And then 8568 GTR, ginger, tobacco, and rum from December 2022. So, yeah, there's been a few of these, but a real tonic is the most recent relation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you, Andrew. I love this one.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, let's climb back up on that butte or that butt.
0.7 on the segue. I'm gonna give you
Thank
points
you.
on that one. All right. How do I get that back? There? No.
Yeah, this shows, even though it's still tightly wound, it shows a bit more of the sherry versus the first one on the nose for me, or versus Moroccan Mystique. Sorry.
Full screen. Sorry, I I mucked up my settings here. I'm trying to put them back.
No worries. Still can't believe this is 67.3%. The palette right now is just like full on like milk and dark chocolate. Just rich, but still that 67% is hiding in there somewhere.
The sherry's still a little raw for me.
Yeah. Well, speaking of raw, it's got a bit of like Demerara sugar notes to it that are coming out right now. Cookie dough.
Russian coffee dregs for me,
Mhm.
which is heavily sugared usually. Like they add a ton of Demerara sugar to it.
Mhm. Yeah, those chocolatey notes are just all over the place right now too. Austin says Hershey's chocolate specifically has that acid note. That's a good call. Yeah, I can see where you're going with that. Comment that number 4 was the first space side of the night. That is unusual. And we are not in space side for number 5.
You want me to put that up?
Yeah, actually, like, not to get ahead of ourselves, but I think this is a one space sider outturn, which is
Oh,
extremely rare.
Evan, that's a real spoiler. I don't think you can take that one back.
I know.
Salted,
Everybody just like, sorry, Kelly.
salted black licorice.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah, going into
almost,
that Dutch licorice territory.
yeah, it's Dutch licorice. It's not quite into like salted German fetish licorice territory yet,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
getting close.
yeah, where it's all PVC vinyl and zippers.
Exactly.
Mm. Yeah, so this is SMWS 78.68, the 68th cast from Ben Nevis Distillery. We have had some monstrous Ben Nevis bottlings over the last couple of years. Is this a sister cast to Garbanzo's Cajun Train Ride?
Indeed, it is. And from last
Oh,
April, and also At Home on the Range from October
mhm.
2023.
Yeah, both those were 65+% alcohol from what I recall. Crazy Ben Nevis still has, and this is probably more in my head than actually on my palate, but there's DNA in this that's in the Nika from the barrel, which is just crazy. Has those nice fruit notes and that chocolatiness that Nika from the barrel gets. But 9-year-old, 67% alcohol and big sherry for $159.99. Really solid price for this guy. 5th
Evan,
of November, 2013.
I'm not saying this just because of your Japanese reference there, but I did notice there's like a miso soup note element
Good
to
call.
this.
Yeah,
Kind of like a mushroom. I don't know if there's such a thing as a mushroom miso soup, but it's very earthy. It's quite funky.
yeah, I agree.
Uh, I mean, this was finished in a second fill, but it's not a finish.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I personally
Second fill Butte. Sorry.
oh Butte, yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
Butte.
Not
I,
finished, full maturation.
no,
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I don't know why, but there's something about the sherry notes in this that I don't love. And they're kind of clashing with what I would imagine is going to be a pretty funky Ben Nevis to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how that distillery just tends to get the funkiness in spades.
Oh,
Kind
yeah.
of like a nice call on the Guy Fawkes night. Remember.
Yeah. Yeah, very good.
Well, that's also a reference to one of the like a great old SMWS bottle. Gunpowder Treason and Plot. How long ago was
Yeah.
that? Like 10 years now? 12 years? Oh, Kelly knows. She can tell us. She's got a database.
Yeah. And remember was an SMWS bottle that Adam Bradshaw from the Strath named, actually.
Hmm.
And that was a Lecheg. That was a damn good bottle.
That's something that both of you have in common.
Yep.
That's right.
Wow. You're an esteemed company, Evan.
I felt better once about everything once Adam got one too.
Oh, did you?
Gunpowder Treason and Plot, 2013. Crazy
There you go.
part.
12 years ago.
Nice.
Uh,
Birth of his first daughter, same date, apparently, for Alec Farquhar, which is very cool.
Oh, Mazel tov.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great dram. I think that actually for me shows better than the At Home on the Range and the Garbanzo's Cajun Trade and Ride. There's that chocolatey note is just all over the place right now. It's really cool stuff. Let's go on to number 6.
All right.
It still has that burnt marshmallow on a s'more note for me, even the graham crackers right now.
Mhm. Kelly, this was not the one that you made the Fig Newton note on it, was it? No. Because it does remind me of a cookie that I believe I first had in France as a child. And they're these like thin wafers that you break, and they're kind of serrated, so you can break them into chunks of 4. And they have raisins or black currants in them. And I used to be able to get them occasionally in Canada as a kid. But it's interesting because they're kind of like the dough that you would get in a Fig Newton, but much thinner and more toasted. And I don't even remember how to describe them. Somebody once sent us to the store when we were talking about these in a tasting, a version of them. It wasn't the actual ones that I had as a kid, but this reminds
Well,
me of those on the nose, these French, like thin French wafer raisin cookies.
I'm gonna go a bit more domestic than you right now, and I'm gonna say right now it noses like full on, like you're making chocolate chip cookie dough. It even has like the vanilla extract and that just that doughiness of everything for me right now, and the sugar notes.
Evan, you gotta up the grade of your chocolate chips and go from vanilla extract to actual vanilla. That's
Yeah,
the secret.
fair enough.
Plus, you gotta double the butter. As somebody who's
Hmm.
obsessed with making good cookies, you always,
Yeah.
if the recipe says it like a cup of butter, you always put in 2.
Yeah, and French butter only, right?
Mm, that's next. I haven't gone that far yet, but that'll be my next tweak is to
Yeah.
go French butter.
That's like when you go that French, you have to have 2 bottles of wine just to like cut down on the cholesterol.
But Evan,
And
like I think in that case, if I'm gonna go French butter, I probably want like a high altitude, like
mhm.
grass fed meadowy kind of butter, right?
Yeah,
Like you
like
can
where the
see if
cows
those
do
floral
CrossFit and
notes
stuff.
carry through into the cookies.
Yeah. So do you think you could guess this one blind what it was? There's no way I could.
Zero chance.
Okay.
Because even the young single malts I've had from this distillery have this, I don't know, like there's malt here, but there's a note
Yeah.
in this distillery that I'm not getting in this or in its peated incarnation either.
Mhm.
Which is very good. I really like the peated stuff that comes out of this distillery. This is not what I thought it was. If I was going to guess blind, actually, I would have gone Glenturret, which I believe this
Mhm.
is.
Yeah, that I can see that the Glen turds we've had from the SMWS have had more spiciness, I would say,
Mhm.
on the peat profile, but yeah, there's no way I could. And this might actually be, unless we've had some cast samples that were peated, this might be the first just peated whiskey I've tried from them because their peated whiskeys that they release are blended blends of their peat and their unpeated stuff, from what I recall. You want to share that
Mhm.
screen?
Yeah, I'll put it up.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong on that too. But a different shade of peat is the first time in Canada that we've gotten a tomatin from the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. This is SMWS 11.55, only the 55th cask from distillery number 11, the 11th distillery they ever bottled,
which
which
is
was
kind of
Tomatin.
bonkers. But Evan, I'm pretty sure the Kuboken bottlings are straight peat.
Maybe. I swear I read somewhere that they were a combination. They were blends of their peat or battings of their peated and unpeated whiskey, but I could be wrong.
We'll have to get
Um,
not Scott Fraser, Scott Adamson on here
yes,
to refute that.
yes. Scott Fraser is no longer allowed to talk about anything Tomatin, I think, at his current position. So
No, but it is funny to unintentionally put
Yeah.
him directly across the aisle at a whiskey festival from Tomatin, even though he no
Absolutely.
longer represents them.
Bon, when you're talking about a Highland whiskey, you got to talk to a Scot. That's
That's
what it
true.
comes down to.
Fortunately, he's got a good sense of humor and doesn't seem to care.
Mhm. He does. So 149.99, 9 years old for this guy. As Andrew mentioned, Tomatin's peated whiskey is released under the Kuboken line, which stands for ghost dog in Gaelic or something like that, from what I recall. But yeah, wild that we haven't seen a Tomatin yet up until this point in Canada, and that's only their 55th cask in total. I think a part of the reason for that would be they have been owned by a Japanese company since 85, 86, yeah. And again, not a distillery that you see a lot of independent bottlings from. I think we have one other one from G&M that I can think of. Can you think of other indie Tomatins that you've seen recently?
No, we've seen some. A lot of them though are from the late 80s and early 90s.
Yeah,
Which again is a sign they've not been really trading casks for a while.
yeah,
Again, maybe this is a sign of things to come. I mean, without telling tales out of school, we met with that guy and,
yes.
they are eager to
They
sell casks again.
they
and
seem to
we're
be
looking.
open for business.
They
Yeah,
are open for business. So,
yeah. But really cool peat profile, like so malt forward.
mhm.
Peat's gentle there. Nice nuttiness to it as well. Really cool dram.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, last but not least,
Final.
back to Alice through the tasting glass, which I did name Alice through the looking glass accidentally. I think the first time that we had it up on our site.
I think that was me, actually. I put it that way in the booklet the first time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I think you corrected me. Anyway, back to FYI on the Tomatins, there will be more.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at my warehouse inventory in front of me at the moment, and there are more tomatoes, as we like to call them, in the warehouse. So
They don't like that.
I know they don't.
That's why they do it. Yeah.
Boutique did that on their labels and they didn't like it. So
That's why Scott Fraser no longer works there, actually.
yeah, I think he was okay with it, and that's why he had to go.
That's
So,
right. So Alice through the tasting glass. This is a returning bottle for any of you that didn't pick it up on that yet. Really quirky peated whiskey, but it's one that's kind of made me watch for this distillery because I love this bottle.
Well, I didn't want to say this, and I believe this is the other one and not the original one, but it reminds me of peated Cavalan a little bit. Like it has that clean smoke, really tropical profile, but that's not what it is.
Yeah, yeah, and to me, this distillery seems to go that leather note on the peat tends to be something that is a through note, at least on the SMWS bottlings that I've had on the peated side from them. So this is SMWS 138.8. The 8th cask from distillery number 138, which is Nantu distillery, the other Taiwanese distillery that gets overshadowed by Cavalan in many, many different ways, but and is also government owned and operated, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you are correct about that, and there's a funny story involving that.
Cool. You want to tell the story?
Well, It's just that I don't think when Cavalan opened, the government controlled until Cavalan Distillery opened. The government controlled the beer industry in Taiwan. So the biggest beer brands are all state owned. They're state supplied, and Cavalan asked for permission for a license to make whiskey, and I don't think the government really wanted to approve it, but they agreed because I don't think they really legally had a choice. But once they started going and they saw that Cavalan was actually right from the start successful, they got jealous. And so Nantu Distillery was opened because the government bureaucrats weren't happy that a private company was being successful. And they kind of wanted to get in on that. And so
And
that's how Nantu Distillery came about. I mean, in
Mhm.
some ways, I've said for a long time that Kilkerran was the only distillery opened out of spite. But I think
Yeah.
technically Nantu would also be a distillery opened out of spite. So there's two.
I mean, sure, I'm sure there's other ones that are opened out of bureaucracy, but that's what this one is.
Well, I mean, sure, if you're talking like Cooley,
Yeah.
like Cooley in Ireland started because it was a government-owned potato ethanol plant
Mhm.
created to water down gasoline with Irish potato alcohol to make it affordable for the locals. So
Mhm.
yes, I mean, there's other examples of government initiatives to make alcohol that eventually turn into something good.
Yeah. I think Mike B wraps that up really well just by saying spite is a good motivator. Agreed.
Can be.
Yeah, so this is one of the SMWS sale bottles that's going on right now. The price has been reduced permanently on this one until it sells through. Originally it was $214.99. It is now $151.99. Yes, it is young at 6 years old, but you're not going to find a lot of older whiskey from Taiwan from that specifically. And then everything else from Taiwan tends to be a hell of a lot more expensive. This is a crazy good peated whiskey, in my opinion.
And I think, Evan, the fair point to make is that it drinks like something from Scotland in the 15 to 20 year range. Like
It
it's
does.
rounded and softened and fruity. Like those fruity elements that are in that whiskey, you can't really, with the exception of maybe Loch Lomond, you can't get at that young an age.
Yeah.
However, even when you do get those, they tend to be a little bit rougher. This is rounded, it's elegant. I mean,
It's
the
got
maturity
layers.
of this is beyond its years.
Mhm.
And just to double down on what I said before, I'm willing to bet the only reason they sold these to the SMWS is that they know that Cavalan sold casks to the SMWS. So they had to do
Good for
something.
them. Yeah. Again, spite gives us whiskey, so I guess that's what it comes down to.
Whatever your motivation is.
That's right. Well, fantastic lineup.
Mhm.
I really liked how that one showed. I didn't actually pick up on the fact that there was only one Space Hider in here until we did this lineup. That was really cool as well.
How dare you, Evan?
I
In the
know.
words of Greta Thunberg, how dare you?
Mhm. But I stand by my putting the gastronomic fusion in the #1 spot. I would even if everybody disagreed with me, though.
I'm really glad to hear that because today I printed the first batch of booklets for the 6 p.m. on Friday. And then I thought, oh, geez, maybe I ought to wait until we do the tasting tonight in case Evan decides to rearrange the lineup and then I have to reprint. So thank you for saying that. I don't have to reprint anything.
It's now a
Let's-
smoked banana split gastrique on the nose.
Nice. Well, you don't want to bypass that gastrique. Like and just go on to #2.
Well, you got to make sure you get a little bit of it on each part of the moose bouche, or you're going to miss something. So it's very key.
Yeah, I wouldn't have changed even if I was wrong, Kelly. I'm a big fan of hubris. It's the thing I do best.
There you go. So Evan, what's next? Do you have a vote? Do you do a vote?
No, we don't typically do votes for this.
Oh.
You guys are welcome to chime in on your favorites. I have a few that I'm gonna keep to myself just because I want to see if they change when I do it on Friday. But there's a couple in here that, well, actually a handful in here that I'm really happy with.
Well, if it sounds like we're kind of done, Evan, in which case, because
Yeah.
my dog is going crazy upstairs, I might need to go and intervene. But I might bow out at this point and let you guys keep chatting, as it were.
Well, I got to run as well, but
I will just give a plug to the June tasting that y'all
Yes.
are going to want to be involved in because we have 2 new distillery codes. We have another Speyside distillery, starts with a T, that we've never ever released from before. And then there's a second distillery code that we've never released from before. We have a distillery that we haven't seen since 2017 from the West Coast. And we have another iconic space cider, the one that dominates all the auction sites all the time. One of those. There's a ton of good stuff coming in June, so snap up the tasting kits when they go up for sale next week.
It's about time.
Now, but yeah,
It's about time we got
mean,
another Manic more. So that's great.
Distilleries starting with T, you got to love that kind of mysteriousness too. So, well, Evan, Kelly, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hope everybody enjoyed the tasting. I don't know if there was questions that were missed.
No, I think we're good.
There's numbers in the chat. All right.
Yep.
Well,
Yep. Thank you guys. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Andrew, for pinch hitting on this one. Good to see you again.
you got it. Yeah. Well, I see you
minutes.
so seldom.
Yeah.
So. All right,
Take care,
good night,
guys.
everybody.